Is it on? Is it on? Yeah, it's on. I always do that. All right. So welcome. This is, what is the name of this workshop again? 101 Ways to Use Glitter. All right? Man, I hate glitter. I hate glitter. Glitter is from the devil, man. Holy moly. In fact, I just saw on Facebook this week, this lady, I think it's in that I Love Kidman Facebook group, which is a lot of fun. She posted that she filled Easter eggs with glitter and put them in all the staff boxes, for fun. And I'm like, holy moly, that's a dangerous thing to do. You're actually going, oh. So she's going to be unfriended by a few people in real life. But anyway, so no, this is Secrets to Effective Kid Communicators. When I did this workshop last week, as people were coming in, I was still hanging my rope and my little things, and I told the early birds that they were curious. Like, what is this? Was anyone curious, or did you just think this was part of the classroom?
No, I said
And so I said that was the first freebie tip, to create curiosity, to be doing something, wearing something, have something playing or something visual, that the moment they come in the room, they're already curious, because curiosity is powerful, all right, and it engages the mind, all right, and so that's powerful. I know it's really popular nowadays as kids arrive to have games and inflatables and things like that, but our time with kids is so precious that I believe every minute that we have with them, we need to capture. And so I don't put games out. I don't like kids to have free playtime. That doesn't mean I don't like them to play, but I want everything they do to be purposeful. So if kids come in, they're immediately maybe even playing a game or doing something, but it actually ends up being part of my lesson. They don't necessarily know that, often until the conclusion of the lesson, when I'll hearken back to that activity or that game or an experience that they had when they came in. For example, you're teaching on initiative, and you're trying to get through the kids. That initiative is seeing what needs to be done and doing it without being asked, right? Well, you can say that till you're blue in the face, right? And the kid's not going to ever understand that, right? Parents are like, amen. Well, what if you have a trash can filled with paper, spilled, overflowing, right by the entrance to the room, all right? And at the end of the lesson, you ask, how many of you guys saw the spilled trash can as you came in? About half of them even saw it, right? How many of you thought someone ought to pick that up? All right? A bunch of hands down. Who thought I should pick that up? How many of you would have done it if I'd asked you to? All the hands would go, right? Well, initiative is seeing what needs to be done. Some of you didn't even see it. But it's not only seeing it, but it's doing it. It's saying, you know what, that's my job, and doing it without being asked. So you're creating experiences that come in. Or, talking about honesty, just have a bowl of candy with a little sign that says, free candy, one piece only. And then just watch and see if they take candy, if they take more than one candy. In fact, I felt bad because a few months ago, I'm a volunteer in a middle school ministry, and I came early and I was greeting, and the kids were greeting and everything, and then the lady who was teaching, she came up and she said, I'd like to show you guys a video. And she said, but first I want to ask you, and she had a young man stand up, and she said, this is my nephew, and here's his name, and she said, how many of you guys have seen him before? Nobody had. She said, well, I want to show you a video. She had asked him to come to youth group, because nobody knew him, he went to another church, and she asked him to come and just sit down in the middle of all these 100 middle schoolers, and just sit on the floor in the middle of them all, but just sit with his head down, and just sit there. And then they filmed it with cameras that were up in inconspicuous locations. And everybody was talking and visiting, and I felt bad because I also had not noticed him. And I had been, out, meeting and greeting, but I had not seen him either. And he wasn't hidden. And then they showed this video, and we all felt bad. And so she was saying, we're talking about, reaching kids at school. Well, what about the kids that just come to youth group that are invisible? And they said, but you don't need to feel bad because we put him up to this. And he's a believer, and he loves Jesus, and he said, I forgive y'all. But it was powerful, And so making every minute count, thinking, what can I do from the moment they come in? So what we're going to do is we're going to have a theme today. You've all heard of one big idea, right? One main thing you want to drill through. So I've got one. I've got a big idea, but I'm not just going to tell it to you because you're going to write it down, right? And I have to hope that you'll remember it, all right? So I need some volunteers from the audience. I need 4 guys. I need 4 girls, all right? So you just come volunteer. You have to raise your hands. That's for grown-ups. So raise your hand. Just come on up. And if I don't get 4 girls and 4 guys, then I pick you. All right? So we'll do guys over here, girls over here. We've already got 3 girls. We only got 1 guy. Come on, all right? We need another guy. There we go. We got 2 guys. We've got 3 girls. We got 3 guys. We got 4 girls.
Did you say 4?
Yep, 4 girls. We need 1 more guy. All right, 1 more guy. All right, Ryan, you're the man. All right. All right. You know, up in Seattle last week, the room had over 100 people. There were only 3 guys in the room. Wow. And, so I had to go to the door, and I recognized one of the givers, and his name was Keith. So I said, on the count of 3, everyone say, Keith, we need you. So we opened the door, we're like, he's like, oh, get in here. And he had no idea what was going on. He came in and he played our game. All right, guys, you'll notice in the corner, we've got 4 balloons. All right, if you each would grab one of those balloons, the ladies, there's 4 balloons for you. All right, you guys each grab one of those balloons. In a minute, let me get my whistle here. In a minute, I'm going to blow my whistle. Now, if you shake your balloon, you'll notice there's a piece of paper in the balloon. All right? So when I blow the whistle, you're going to pop your balloon as fast as you can. All right? Now, I don't care if you bite it, stomp on it, sit on it. That's what the kids do. All right? You can't take your keys out and poke it. I saw you. I was on you. You should have held off. I did say any way you wanted. Now I'm making rules. All right? So yeah, no scissors, no needles, no nunchucks or what are the switchblades? All right, any of that stuff. Okay. So you're gonna pop your balloon. Find your piece of paper. It might go flying across the room. Find it, unfold it, and you each have a word. Then your goal is to get the word in order and figure out what our theme for the day is. Right? Now I got to tell you, in Seattle, the guys were really good at balloon popping, but they could not get their 4 words together. The ladies had a hard time with the balloon popping, but they were much better at the English language. All right? So we have no idea. Who thinks the guys are going to win? Who thinks the girls are going to win? Girls are always louder. All right? Get set. And there we go. I hear 4. All right, they got the piece of papers. They're unfolding it. We finally got the 4th balloon over there. All right, they're figuring it out. They're reading their word. You've got to hold them facing the audience so the audience can read your sentence. All right, so hold we go. There we go. You got to hold it facing the audience. There we go. And that's wrong. There we go. There we go. There we go. They're still working on it. There we go. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. This is wrong. That's wrong. And you guys got it. All right. There you go. All right. So let's see. There's your first. The whole 2 words. Everybody can see it. And your second. Your third. And you're down here. Wait, go back up there. We're not done. All right. So who's got turn? Turn. All right. You're over here. So turn this way. All right. And who's got spectators? There we go. All right. So let's read these together. Turn spectators into participants. Now, it would be really bad if these 2 traded, right?
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to turn participants into spectators. No. That's bad. So switch back. Quick. All right? What does that mean? Who can tell me? What does that mean? Raise your hands.
It's like when you got them to go up there.
Exactly. What's the difference between me telling you to turn spectators into participants and what you just observed?
Interactive.
It's interactive, right? Now, first of all, I involved the 8 of you, but were you guys involved too?
Yeah.
How were you involved?
Cheering on.
All right, cheering, rooting for your team, right? Rooting for the boys, right? All right, so we learned that boys rule, girls drool, right? All right, and you can keep your piece of paper as a souvenir. Right? I'd let you keep the balloon, but you ruined it. Right? So, and look at it, children's pastors. Look at this, children's pastors. See, we're the only staff members that actually pick up after ourselves, right? Every other ministry, you know, I always say, after a children's ministry event, you can't even tell we did one. After a youth event or anything else, you know, the building's destroyed. Look at it. You can't even tell you guys are up here. It's amazing. Give you guys a big round of applause. So what is our theme for today? All right. You know, it's funny, the sidetrack from communication to recruiting. We wonder why it's hard to recruit adults. It's because we train children to come to church and watch. And then we wonder why when they become adults, they want to come to church and watch. If you get kids participating, church becomes a place you come and do, not a place you come and watch. So you get kids involved, and they will be involved their whole life. So that's our theme. So I have up here on my clothesline 10 secrets to engaging kids and becoming an effective communicator. Because we don't want to be teachers of kids. We want to be communicators, all right? And so, so I need a volunteer from the audience. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I've got, where is it? Oh, here, I got my flying monkey. All right. And so I'm going to take my flying monkey here. And I'm going to shoot my flying monkey. Whoever gets the flying monkey is my next volunteer. Here we go. Oh! All right.
You got it.
So we'll just call these 1, 2, 3 through 10. Just pick a number from 1 and 10. You can stay right there.
Okay.
Pick it up and hang on to the monkey for now. Pick a number from 1 through 10.
I like the 8.
8. All right. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Survey says. And what have we got here? There we go. What is this?
Brain.
It's a brain. All right. So, what in the world could a brain mean? I think I lost my mind years ago and I found it. All right. What do you think a brain could mean when it comes to being an effective communicator of kids? Any guesses out there? Yes.
Absorb everything like sponges?
Good guesses, good guesses. You know, guesses are very powerful. Years ago, when I was a young children's pastor in the inner city of Chicago, I had a little boy named Tyrone. And no matter what I was teaching on, no matter what I asked, he would go, oh, 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 oh. He was probably hyperventilating. And so I would call on him, and I'd say, Tyrone! And he'd go, Moses! What are you talking about, Moses? And I felt so bad. I was saying, no, it was, you know, whatever the right answer was. But every week, doesn't matter, again, am I calling him Moses? So thinking, you know, and feeling terrible every week, like I was this horrible teacher. I finally, thinking I was smart, I thought, I'm going to rig it for little Tyrone. What I'm going to do is, regardless of the content of my lesson, I'm going to rig it for him. And so, got to my quizzing time at the end of my lesson, I said, okay, everybody, who did God give the 10 Commandments to up on Mount Sinai? Oh. So I'm like, Tyrone, what was it? He goes, Jesus? And I'm like, no, Moses. And I felt so horrible, you know? And so I shared it with a friend, and I can't remember, Barney, if that was you or who it was back then, but I shared it with a friend of mine. And he said, well, Karl, it's because you're asking for answers and not guesses. You need to ask for guesses. See, guesses are never wrong. So always ask, because they can say Moses, they can be totally off, and you could say, that is a great guess. Moses was a mighty man of God. But I'm thinking of somebody in the New Testament. In fact, they could even say Michael Jordan. I'm from Chicago. You can say Michael Jordan's an awesome dude on the court, but I'm thinking of someone that was awesome on the water, because you were trying to go for Peter or something. All right? But the Bible, the brain reminds me of making memories. So if you want to be an effective communicator, as you're looking at your lesson, as you're praying about the lesson, as you're letting it impact you before you even try to impact the kids, you ask yourself, what can I do that will create a memory for those kids? Something that they will never forget. And you pray about it, you think about it. And you say, what have I never done? What crazy, off the wall thing can I do? And God will give you some crazy ideas. Like, don't be scared of ideas that are absurd. All right? Craig, remember, when I was a Sunday school teacher in downtown Chicago, a second grade teacher. Wasn't in charge, I was just a second grade teacher. Outside our window was a Burger King, kitty corner from Moody Church. And every week the boys were like, can we go to Burger King? We can't go to Burger King. Or Sunday school, right? Every week, can we go to Burger King? I get so tired of hearing, can we go to Burger King? We can't go to Burger King. I finally thought one week, why can't we go to Burger King? Well, there's a lot of legitimate reasons. There's safety issues, there's parent permission issues. So I thought, well, I'm just going to have to plan this weeks in advance. So I picked a date, I talked to the leadership, I had to get permission slips made, all without telling the children. And I had to even talk to kids who were irregular in attendance. And I had to make sure that the greeters knew about this. So if any kids just showed up, the parents that were bringing the guests would know we're going to Burger King. I had to wait till 15 minutes into I had to wait. I'm like, oh, 1 week I have this all ready, they're not even going to ask. And I had to wait till one kid go, can we go to Burger King? You want to go to Burger King? Yeah. Oh, I don't think we can go to Burger King. I might get fired as your teacher. We have to sneak. So we had these classrooms with just openings like this, so we're all looking out there. So we had to take an eraser, we had to throw the eraser, so the teacher would look and we all ran across the room. No way she didn't hear. We had to sneak down the hallways, we had to distract the ushers, you know. And we snuck to Burger King. You cannot tell your parents we went to Burger King. I'll get so busted. Of course they're going to tell their parents. Right? You can do crazy stuff like that. When I was teaching on Jesus lowering the 4 guys through the roof, I thought, why not teach on the roof? I'm in downtown Chicago. How fun would that be, right? And so I looked over, how do you get on the roof of this big historic Moody church? Well, there was this stairwell that went up and had a big old padlock on it. So, well, how am I going to get key to the padlock? So I had to talk to the maintenance guy. So I got a copy of that key. And then, do anyone know who Erwin Lutzer is? He's like this world-renowned radio preacher. He was the senior pastor there. Well, he is the senior pastor there. And so I put that key in his desk. And so we're teaching the lesson. Like, wouldn't it be cool to go up on the roof? What do I get? So we went looking around. We found we climbed up there. Oh, it's padlocked. You know who I bet has a key? I bet Pastor Lutzer. You know where his office is? They never been to his Holy of Holies office, right? So we went to Pastor Lutzer's office. I used a paperclip to get into his. But they're behind me. They can't see me pull out the real key. We went into his office. I opened his desk drawer. I took the key out. We went up on the roof. They didn't even notice that there was a carpet with little chairs on the roof. That didn't even occur to them that was unusual. And we did the Bible story up on the roof. They talked about that years later. You just go, what can I do to create a memory? I want to talk about a really deep theological. You don't have to do stuff like this every week. These things are spread out. But one time I talk about justification. That's a big word to teach the kids, right? I define it to kids as just as if you never sinned. And so I got this idea. I bounced off my senior pastor, and I said, you know, it's a big theological term. It'd be really cool if you could explain it. But of course, you can't come to kids' church. So what I did is I started trying to explain it, and I kept stumbling and fumbling, and I finally said, man, I wish Pastor Dave could explain this to you. He's so good at explaining big theological terms because he's the senior pastor. And I'm like, man, I wish I could call him. Of course, the kid, call him. Well, my kids' crew were in on it, so call him, call him, call him. Well, maybe I should call him. So I got on my cell phone. He's preaching right now. And they're like, call him, call him, he's preaching right now. I'm like, do it. I'm like, all right, hush down. So I said to my techie guy in the back, I'm like, can you guys get the feed of the big church like up on the screen? He's like, oh yeah, we can do that. So they run a wire and they do it, something. And sure enough, up on the screen is Pastor Dave preaching the sermon on it. So I'm like, okay, I'll call him. So he's preaching, his phone rings. He's like, oh, excuse me, folks. It's Pastor Karl. It must be important. Yes, Karl? I'm like, Pastor Dave, I'm really sorry to bother you right now. I know you're preaching, but I'm trying to explain justification to the kids, and I'm having a hard time. He's like, no problem. I can do it. Well, he had turned his back. I said, we got you on screen. He's like, oh, how you doing, kids? The kids are like, oh. So he gives this little 5-minute thing. He said, I got to get back to my sermon. The grown-ups are getting restless. So he hangs up, we cut the feed. Well, of course, we filmed it during the week, right? And had him wear the same outfit, the same time, right? And then, of course, I tell him, you cannot, I'm so busted. Well, they go to, of course, he played along after church when that was so cool. But the parents, they're going, Mom, Dad, what was that like when Pastor Karl called in the middle of the sermon? They're like, you must have missed that. How could you miss that? they're going nuts, So you can do all kinds of crazy things like that, all right? Create a memory. I've had my pastor pre-record things so that I could use his voice as the game show, the Johnny Donovan voice, And of course they start to figure out it's just a recording, so you just for the last week have them come down during the worship and pull the curtain back and catch him doing the recording live. So they think, oh, he's been there all along, every week for 8 weeks behind the curtain doing the voice. So you just, I'll give you one more. One week, I'm trying to remember if I was going to share this on a different one, but one week, due to some construction and stuff, I couldn't use my fancy kids' church room. So it covered with construction tape, and last night I had to go to the gym. And the gym is boring. And I don't get my set, I don't get my props, I don't get my puppets, I don't get all my cool screens and everything, and which means you can't be effective in ministry, right?
No.
No, instead you go, okay, what can I do to create a memory that kids will never forget with nothing? And what do I have? I look around the gym, and I'm like, what do I have in here? Well, they had a lift. So I'm like, okay, what can I do with a lift, right? So what I did is the kids all came in, and as they came in, they saw me in the middle of the gym with a jug of candy. Of course, that got their interest, right? So they go, well, what's going on? I'm like, I've hidden a smiley in the gym. If you can find the smiley and you whisper to me where the smiley is, don't point, so you don't help anybody else, then I give you a piece of candy. So they're running all over the gymnasium. They're trying to find the smiley face. And one by one, finally, a few kids find it, but most can't. And there's not really many places to look. And I don't tell them how big or how small the smiley is, whether it's a sticker or what. But finally, one little girl, bless her heart, little kindergartner or first grader, who can't resist the urge to point when she whispers in my ear. And then, of course, all the kids look up, and there was a smiley this big on the ceiling of the gymnasium, way up there on an air conditioning vent. And of course, then they're all running in. I'm like, game's over, you know. So you'll all get candy at the end, but later they're like, how did you get it up there? I jumped. I put slinkies on my shoes. No way! So finally, I get them all to call, and I roll out this lift. And I plug it in. I run the extension cord. I get in. And I show them how I can get all the way up there. And the kids are all laying down on the floor. And I taught the whole lesson from this lift. I found out later there's these legs you're supposed to attach. So luckily I didn't collapse and keep crushing children. But then I talked about how everyone in life is looking for happiness. Even our Constitution says that we were created, you know, in the, not the image of God, that's a different document. But for the pursuit of happiness, right? And so, but people don't look up. They look all over. In fact, some of you kids became false prophets because after you found it, you were misleading other people, even though you had found it, right? Oh, yeah, that's true. And you know, that smiley's still there. You go to Village Church of Barrington, Illinois. I did that in 1999. And it's still on the ceiling of that gym. So I run into high school or college kids now, and they'll say, Carl, that smiley's still there. And I'll say, yeah, what does it mean? I know, happiness is found by looking up. Because they created a memory for them. And some of them were younger elementary, but they remember. All right? So who has the monkey? All right, so it's your turn to throw it to somebody else. You can throw it or shoot it. You put your 2 fingers in there and you pull them by the legs. Can't figure it out, just throw it. All right.
All right, right here.
There we go. Uh-oh. All right. 8's already taken. 1 through 10.
Thanks. 5.
5. All right, here we go. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, there we go. And what do you think a couple of eyeballs would represent?
Visuals.
Effective communicators? Yes. Our visual. Never talk about anything without a visual. All right? I've been teaching since I was 10 years old, teaching children's ministry. I'm pretty creative. I'm pretty good at what I do. All right? I panic if I don't have visuals. I remember years ago I was driving down to visit my in-laws, and he was a pastor of a church in the south suburbs, and we were just going down there for dinner. And they called me on the way down. They're like, Karl, can you teach at our Awana Club tonight? We had this cancellation or someone's sick or something. You know, and you might think the kidologist would go, no problem, piece of cake. I'm like, because I have nothing but me. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but everybody turn and look at the person on your right. Turn and look at the person on your left. They say that 1 out of every 3 people's ugly. Now, if they're not on your right and they're not on your left, you know. I mean, the reality is you're not that much to look at. All right? So if you're just standing up in a bunch of... And don't break it to anybody if you think it's them. It's probably you. But, you know, with rare exception, I mean, you're not that much to look at in front of kids. I mean, yeah, we can try to be animated, we can try to keep moving, but we're kind of boring, all right? And so I got off the highway and immediately went to a Walgreens and went to the overpriced toy aisle, you know, if I can't find a dollar bill store, to find what can I buy, what can I have as a visual that I can teach with. Because the visuals become the hook. That's why object lessons are so powerful, all right? Because years after the lesson, the kids remember the object lesson. I love object lessons. Barney and I love doing object lesson workshops, and I love creating object lessons from anything. But even if you don't feel like you can make your own object lessons and you get the ones from books, then blow them up. I don't mean literally, okay? Although that could be fun. To take them to an extreme. You know, I remember years ago, I got a object lesson book, and I was looking for one on words because I was teaching on words. And I read one that said words are like toothpaste. So it said get a little toothpaste tube and squeeze it out and explain that words are like toothpaste. Once they're out, you can't get them back in. It's a great object lesson. But I go, how can I blow this up? How can I make a memory of this object lesson? Because I want to make sure they never forget that words are like toothpaste. So I go get a ton of 8-foot tables, line them with tablecloths, go get 10 paper plates, go to Subway store and ask for 10 pairs of those gloves they make your sandwich with for sanitary purposes. Go get Q-tips, paper clips, tweezers, plastic spoons, anything I can think of that could be a device that you might attempt to put toothpaste back into a tube. Go buy 10 tubes of toothpaste, and then go to the bank and get $100. Ooh, I actually have a $100 bill right now. This is very rare, but I'm going to use it for this. I was out with my brother-in-law last night. He had a $100 bill, and I was like, that looks so cool. You know, they totally redid them recently. So can I buy that from you and take all my money and like trade it for you for that? And they're really awesome. So you go to the bank and you get one of these. This is awesome. God knew I was filming, so he gave me a $100 bill. So you get this $100 bill out, and you say, we're going to have a game. Who would like to win $100? Well, yeah, we have a volunteer. So you get 10 kids to come up, and you put schmucks on them, and they line up, and you say this 2-part game. First part is to race who can empty their toothpaste tube the fastest. And that's messy and it's fun. Part 2 is whoever can get the toothpaste. Yeah, you're going, this is cruel, right? June is on to me. Who can get the toothpaste? See, that's a visual. I'm doing a visual. All right, who can get it back in first? Now, not one kid goes, this is a scam. This isn't even fair. You're a fraud. Yeah, no, not one kid that they try. They're pushing and shoving and getting all goopy, and everyone else is laughing at them, and the kids are cheering. They're giving them advice from the audience. No, use the Q-tip. No, use the no. And because they want someone to win that, you know. And finally, after like 5-10 minutes, you want to watch the emotions, because when they start getting angry, you know, you do love these children, even though you're being cruel. And so finally, you cut the game. You know what? Time's up. It looks like nobody gets my $100 bill. At other times, I've used a Toys R Us gift card, you know, or other. And I'm going to put this away because this is a very rare occasion, and I don't want to risk my shirt pocket with this. So, but then you just preach it. You know what? Once you say, you're not my friend anymore, I hate you, I wish I'd never met you. Once you say those words, you can't get them back. Now you can say you're sorry, you talk about how genuine apologies work, and the word if and all that. Well, I had a girl come back to me years later in high school. She'd been a 3rd or 4th grader with me, and she had a youth pastor, right? But she comes back to her children's pastor and says, can we talk? So we find a place to sit down, pew in the hallway. And she says, Pastor Karl, I need to talk. I said, what's up? What's going on? She says, I squirted the toothpaste out with my best friend. That was the language she used. She says, I know I can't get it back in, but I need to know how I can repair the friendship. So I mean, she that was the visual that she had years later. But that visual is so powerful. You know, Proverbs says that words are like an arrow once shot from the bow cannot be retrieved. So I've had games, I go buy the plastic bow and arrows, tell the kids that they have to shoot the arrow and catch it. You know, that's the game. And one after one, a kid tries it, they can't do it. It's fun. So make it visual. Actually, how can I visualize? Whether it's a costume, whether it's a hat. I didn't wear them today because Steph told me no ties allowed. Because I'm doing the dress in the morning, the keynote whatever in the morning, and I said, do I need to wear a suit and tie? And he said, don't wear any ties. And I usually wear ties. I'm a tie guy. I'm like the last guy in my church that wears a tie. But I love wearing like these goofy ties. And I have like 300 ties. And if I can't find one that fits my lesson, I grab a random one. Because then the kids are all trying to figure out, how does that tie fit the lesson? And they end up coming up with something. It's amazing, right? So visual. All right, so who's got the monkey? All right, toss it to someone. There we go. All right. You got it there, Eric, right at your feet. Oh, it's been intercepted. That's right. Number one. All right. Oh, one of my favorites. All right, what do you think that could represent?
Feedback.
Back and forth, good guess. What else?
Interaction.
Good guess. Good
Teamwork.
guess. Ooh, you're getting closer. Getting hot.
Team player?
Competition.
Serve. Let kids serve. All right, if you want kids to learn, we learn by doing, right? My motto is, if a kid can do it, a kid should do it. I started out in kids ministry when I was really young. Saw a children's evangelist, went home and said, that's what I want to do. My mom got me busy doing it. And by the time I was in Bible college, I was doing puppets and magic and unicycle and juggling and everything. And so by the time I was doing kids church, I was doing in the inner city of Chicago, half inner city kids, half suburban kids, room packed full of people. And I thought I was doing great. The kids all thought I was a rock star. And this volunteer lady came up to me. She kind of chewed me out, graciously and in a godly way, so I received it. But she said, God didn't give you these gifts so that your job could be easy. She said, God gave you these gifts so that you could reproduce others to do the same thing. And she had heard my testimony, how I got started as a kid. She said, the reason you're so good at this young age, because I was like 20 at the time, is because you started when you were 10. And said, but here you are coming in with your big red box and putting on a show for the kids, and you're doing it all like as a one-man show. I was so convicted. I mean, I was like, she's totally right. So the next week, I got up in front of the kids, and I said, who would like to help? Of course, every hand went up, right? I was like, I meant to say which fifth and sixth graders would like to help. So the first and fourth grade hands reluctantly went down, and I honestly didn't know what they could do. So I passed a clipboard and had them sign up. So me and my girlfriend, who's now my wife, said, what can they do? You know, so we made them ushers and greeters. And like, I still have these giant signs that I made where they would walk across the stage, because we didn't have PowerPoint, going, Gus, my puppet. And then I would do Gus. And then they would do object lesson. And then I would do an object lesson. And then they would do Bible story. And then I would do the Bible story. And they would do game time. And I would lead the game. You know, and it was, you know, I'm embarrassed now, but that's where I was at. It's like, they can't do what I can do. But every year, I figured out they can do a little bit more, a little bit more. By the time I was 20 years into ministry, they were doing everything. In fact, when I'd go on vacation, they'd completely run my children's church. We had a sound booth that rivaled the sanctuary. They were doing live video editing, you know, with little, go to camera 1, go to camera 2. They were doing setup and takedown and teaching, leading worship, helping me write my lessons and plan my lessons. We'd get together, I'd say, here's what I'm going to teach on, and they'd come up with the themes. Wow. And a lot of times it'd be totally different than what I would think. You know, one of my favorites, we're going to teach on Daniel, and I kind of had my idea where I was going to steer the conversation. We talked about Daniel, and they steered to end up thinking it was more about peer pressure. And the scariest thing that it was called, the units on Kidology, they ended up comparing it to skydiving. And we did a whole parachute theme. And it was all the kids' idea, because the faith it takes to fall out of an airplane and trust a parachute is the faith it took for Daniel to put his life, you know, into the fire and into the lion's den and to open the window and pray. And this was all the kids that came up with all this. And it was amazing. And so I would challenge you to get your kids serving. And I already said it. We train them to serve when they're young. whether they go into ministry or not. A lot of them will. I have so many of my crew kids. I call them KC crew. It stood for Kids Church Crew. So many of them have gone into Bible college and into ministry. But even those who don't, whether they become professionals or stay-at-home moms and homeschool moms, church becomes a place where you go serve. They show up at church and they're the people that go, what can I do? Where are the needs? Because that's their culture, and it's so powerful, all right? So get kids serving. All right, who's got the monkey? All right, blindly throw it over your head. Woo! All right, number from 1 to 10 that hasn't already been taken.
3.
3. All right, what do we got here? Oh, I love this one. All right, it's not a Bible. It's all about communicating God's truth. So what could a book represent? Reading's a good guess.
Education.
Story.
Story, who said it?
He said it.
He said it, Dave said it. All right, Dave, you're the man. Don't neglect the power of story. Similar to object lessons, kids don't learn the way we do, all right? See, we take notes, right? We write things down, and we regurgitate it back, all right? But we're what educators call, or kids are what educators call concrete relation, all right? Have you heard that phrase before? That means if they can't see it, smell it, taste it, hear it, or touch it, it ain't real, all right? The problem is a lot of what we're trying to teach is abstract and spiritual. So we're trying to take these abstract spiritual concepts and we're trying to relate them to children who cannot perceive those things. Not until about 11 or 12, and not well until really they get into being a teenager. All right, some spiritually astute kids at 10 or 11 will start to engage in abstract concepts. So we've got to help them define things in a better way. So I could tell you that faith, the biblical or Moody Bible Institute definition of faith is active trust, okay? Because belief, even the demons believe in God and shudder, James says, right? So faith is not belief, all right? And I can trust something, and that's not faith, right? Like I can trust this chair, all right? But I haven't put my faith in this chair, right? You, however, have put faith in your chair. Why? You're sitting on it, right? So I can believe this chair can hold me. I can trust this chair will hold me, but it doesn't turn into faith until I actually sit down. All right? So that's a great definition, right? Some of you might have written that down. Well, does that work with children to explain to them that what faith is? No. You can even get them to repeat that back to you for a piece of candy. That doesn't mean that they've learned it. So what you've got to do is the way kids learn a definition is through stories and experiences that the multiplicity of them form that word. So an object lesson on faith, even demonstration with the chair, that's an experience. Different stories. And as they hear these different stories that all use the word faith, it starts to form that. And it's powerful. So become a good storyteller. I think I'm doing a storytelling workshop tomorrow. I'm not sure. I think I am. I'll have to check the schedule. I think I'm bringing stories to life tomorrow. Or maybe that was last weekend. It's all a blur. Check the schedule. If not, it'll be on that page if you gave me your email. All right? But stories are powerful. All right? If you're telling a story about a little girl who's in her bedroom at night, she lives on the 2nd floor, and she wakes up and her eyes are kind of burning. And she sees a little smoke coming under her door. She goes to the door, and her parents have taught her to feel the door before she touches the knob, and the door's hot. So she knows there's a fire. And she gets scared. So she goes to the window, and she opens the window, but it's dark outside. And now her eyes are starting to get to where she really can't see, but she can see lights, red lights, blue lights flashing. And then she hears some firemen saying that they see her going, oh good, she's awake. And they're yelling at her and instructing her to step out of her window. There's a ledge. And they guide her through how to turn around and put her feet out and step on the ledge, and then how to cross her hands and turn around, but she can't see a thing. And they're saying, honey, you've got to jump. We're down here, we're firemen, we're trained, we've got a blanket, we're going to catch you. But she's paralyzed by fear. She just can't do it. And then she hears her dad's voice. And her dad says, honey, it's your dad. I love you. I won't let anything happen to you. You must let go. And because it's her father's voice, she falls forward. And within seconds, they scoop her up and she's in her father's arms. Because she put her faith in her father. You know, when you tell that story, you tell it right, and all the little girls in the front row crying, right? It's faith. And you probably all know that story about that tightrope walker, right? I forgot his name on the top of my head, but he goes across Niagara Falls. What was his name? Yeah, and he goes all the way across Niagara Falls. He's amazing. Then he goes back across, put a masking tape across the floor. Bring a wheelbarrow to church. Bring a big pole. All right, if you have that magic appearing pole, it's even better. Pull it out of a limp stack. And go all the way across with the wheelbarrow. And then explain, he said, how many of you believe I can put a person in the wheelbarrow? And the crowd went crazy. He said, okay, I need a volunteer. The history books report that not a person would get in that wheelbarrow. And he never got to actually demonstrate that he could take someone across Niagara Falls in a wheelbarrow. Why? Because they believed, but they were not going to put the, and faith is getting in the wheelbarrow with your life. It's saying, I'm going to put my faith in God, as scary as it is at times. So kid hears that story. Here's about the little girl. Here's another story. And their concept of faith is formed. That's why what kids listen to in entertainment is so powerful. Because they're getting definitions of sexuality and definition of what it means to be a man and what it means to be a girl. And they're getting definitions through all these stories. Because it's forming what they actually believe about things. What you tell them doesn't matter. Because they can't even process what you tell them. But they process those stories. So use the power of story. And be a storyteller. It works even with grown-ups. I remember just a few weeks ago with adults telling the story. I was teaching on prayer. And how do we end all of our prayers? Amen. In Jesus' name, amen. And I said, who knows what that means? We all say it, right? We've been saying it since childhood. And so I shared the story of how when I wanted to get engaged to my girlfriend, I wanted to do it in downtown Chicago at the top of the Prudential Tower, which when my parents got married was the tallest building in Chicago in 1964. And it was called Top of the Rock back in 1964. Well, when I was a Moody student, a senior, it had changed hands and it was now the Plaza Club. So I got dressed as nice as I could. I went down to the Plaza Club, rode the elevator to the top floor. When I came out, I could tell as soon as the concierge looked at me, it wasn't a very approving look. And I explained to him that I wanted to have dinner there and propose to my girlfriend and I wanted to make reservations, and he just kept looking down his nose at me. And in not very polite terms, he explained to me that I wasn't welcome to eat there, that it was a members only club. And I said, well, could you make an exception? Because, you know, my mom and dad had dinner here and he wasn't going to do it. So I was just crushed. I was a little humiliated too. It was just, you know, kind of hurt. So I left and I worked at a law firm in Chicago as a messenger boy. I usually sat in the lunchroom doing homework until they had me run something at the Daily Center. So I'm in the lunchroom and I was telling a couple of secretaries, they were all, oh, how's it going with Sarah? And I said, oh, I'm bummed. Have you proposed yet? So I told them, yeah, I was going to do it at the Plaza Club, and it was an exclusive club. Well, a few minutes later, I didn't realize one of those secretaries was secretary to one of the top lawyers in the law firm. So a few minutes later, I get a call from Ed Rubery. Now this is Bollinger, Rubery, and Garvey. And they have like 500 lawyers. This is like one of the top 3 of the 3rd largest law firm in Chicago. I mean, if you like, this guy thinks about you, you get a bill for $1,000. So, you know, it doesn't matter if it's in the bathroom, you know. So Ed Rubery calls me into his corner office. And he says, I understand you had some trouble at the Plaza Club. And I said, well, yeah. And I tried, and he kind of cuts me off because, you know, seconds are money. And he said, I want you to go back and just tell him Ed Rubery said you can have whatever you want. Goodbye. Okay, I don't want to get billed. So I'm like, all right. So I went back to Moody and went and got my little nicer JCPenney suit. And went back to the Plaza Club, rode the elevator up. When I got off the elevator, when the concierge saw me, he rolls his eyes like, oh, I like this guy. So I got rid of him. So I looked at him and said, I'm really sorry, I don't mean to bother you, but can I just talk to a manager? So I see him go back at a manager, and I see them walk by. This guy's amazing. And I see them talking, you know, I don't know what he said, but he was kind of explaining the situation, you know. So the manager came up, and he was a little nicer, but he started into his spiel about, you know, why I couldn't eat there. And I said, I understand that, sir. I'm really not trying to cause problems. But Ed Rubery said, and I hadn't even finished my sentence. Ed Rubery said, oh, when would you, and he stuttered, when would you like to have your reservations? I said, well, I was kind of thinking of Valentine's Day. He said, we will give you the corner place. It's the nicest place. It's a view of Chicago. Da, da, da. And he said, would you like to have your wedding dinner here by any chance? I said, I'd love to. He said, we will close the restaurant. You can have the entire restaurant to yourself. And so So we horse and buggy from Moody Church all the way to the Plaza Club, Rodeo there. We had the entire restaurant to ourselves and all of our family and friends. Now, did I change? My status did not change. I still was a nobody. All that changed was I said in Ruberry's name after my request. And that's why we pray in Jesus' name. Because our status before God is that we deserve nothing. We have no right to ask for anything. But when we end our prayers in Jesus' name, God says, oh, that changes everything. You know my son. You can have whatever you need. If you ask in my son's name, I'll give you whatever you want. And what's really cool is when you understand what amen means. The emperor said it in Empire Strikes Back. So be it. So I challenge kids, quit saying amen because you don't know what it means. End your prayers with so be it. So the next time you pray, say, in Jesus' name, so be it. I know you want to. So, but isn't that story powerful?
Yes.
And it brings to life, and it's a real life story. Now, if you go tell my story, it'll be half as powerful because you'll be saying this happened to a guy that I've heard. So you got to find your own stories from your own life that illustrate those things, and they will be as powerful to your kids as my story was to you. It's all about it being your story. All right, who's got the monkey? All right, throw it in here. We're gonna retire the monkey. Throw it in. We're gonna throw it here. Yeah, we're gonna retire the monkey.
Okay.
We're gonna retire the monkey because monkeys are great, but I also have a flying chicken, and he's a little easier. He just takes one finger. There we go. All right, so pick it up from 1 to 10.
7.
And when does this go till again? 3:30? 3:05. Okay. Pick a number.
7.
7? That with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I love this one. All right. This is create an experience. All right. You want to don't ever talk about an emotion. Create the emotion. All right. You know, I remember years ago, and I do this all the time, and you're going to steal this idea. You're going to talk about missions and the need around the world, right? So what you do is you go to the store and you buy a bag of chocolate kisses. Actually, you buy 2 bags. You don't need the second bag, other than to hold up, and then you can eat it yourself later. Okay? I'll explain in a minute. You hide both bags, and you say, kids, I love you so much, I just want to give you all a kiss. And they go, especially if you're a guy, right? And you go, no, not that kind of kiss. And you get out the chocolate kisses. I want to give you all a chocolate kiss. So now they're all excited. And you say, I have enough in this bag for everybody, but to make it quick, I'm just going to throw them out. But here's the rule. You got to stay in your seat, bottoms on the chairs, and then you start throwing them out. The thing is, you throw handfuls in the front. And you just throw like onesies, twosies in the back. And then handfuls in the front. Onesies, twosies in the back. Until you exhaust the bag. Well, the kids get upset. I mean, the kids up here are not upset, but the kids back there are upset. Especially when you deplete the bag. All right? And then you calm them all down. And the only reason you buy the second bag is to regain control. Because they know, I got plenty of kisses, calm down, I'm trying to make a point here. Okay, but you don't actually need it other than for control, so you can eat that later, okay? So you put that away. And you say, how did you guys feel? You felt great. How did you guys feel? And I'll just read a digest version. All right, you felt cheated, you felt it wasn't fair, whatever. There was enough chocolate for everybody. Say, well, that's how kids in other parts of the world feel. They look at us American kids and they see you guys have everything. And, you know, even when it comes to Christian stuff, I mean, you not only have Bibles, you have comic Bibles and audio Bibles, and you have Christian videos and Christian t-shirts. I mean, I got a Christian yo-yo at home that says, Jesus loves you on it. I mean, we got, my mom used to work at a giant Christian bookstore here in Long Beach called the Lighthouse Christian Bookstore. It's long been out of business. She was the manager of the trinket department. I mean, they had a whole department of Jesus junk. All right, and then she moved up to the CE department, the mailings and all that. But I mean, we got Christian stuff coming out our ears, right? But and they don't have it over there. So how do you think they feel? So I say, you know what? I don't even need this bag because I like I said, there was enough chocolate for everybody. So I'm now going to anoint you guys as candy missionaries. I pray over them. I commission them. And their job is to get up and to go into all the rooms and to spread the good news of the chocolate. And then I say, now understand, it's not going to be fair. Life is not fair. Some are going to get more chocolate than others. All right? But my challenge is to not be greedy and to make sure everybody gets at least 1 or 2 pieces. And then these these kids get up and go, and everyone gets chocolate. But you created an experience, all right? Instead of just talking it to someone. And whether it's a game, I mean, a few weeks ago I was teaching on patience, because I think that's the 252 this month. And I did a game with a big bowl of candy in the middle and all the kids, and I drew cards, and it was either 2 steps forward or 3 steps back, 5 steps forward and 4 steps back, you know. And then we just talked about that's how life is. There's something you're after, and you keep having steps forward, and then you make steps forward, and make steps back. You know, I could talk about it, but when you have 100 kids going forward, they're experiencing it, right? And it's amazing, right? So I'm going to put your stuff down, stand up, we're going to form a circle around the room. Okay? And all of you guys are so important, all right? So, circle all the way around the room, and everyone has to be within arm's reach of each other. I have a ping pong ball here, but it's a very special ping pong ball, all right? It's actually called a UFO ball. I don't know why it's called that. Probably just because it's a marketable name. But you'll notice there's some little contacts on the back of it. And then there's a battery in it. Eventually these die and you just buy a new one. You can't really change the battery. But the cool thing is if you watch, if I touch one of the contacts, nothing happens. But as soon as I touch the other one, then it lights up. Because what happens is the current actually travels, you know, through my finger, all the way up my arm, through my body, and down the other side, and completes the contact. What's even more amazing about it is if I hold your hand, and then I touch this contact, if you touch the other one, right, then it actually, are you alive? I don't want to short circuit you there. All right, there we go. So it goes through his hand, through his body, through our arms. All right, now I want you to grab her hand. All right, and now you grab the other contact. It goes through that. But it will actually travel all through the room. So everybody join hands. All right, and we're going to make the last connection here. All right, now, everybody holding hands? Yeah. All right, so now you touch that other side. Someone's not holding hands here. All right, someone's afraid of cooties here.
Somebody's not holding their hands.
There we go, there we go.
That's funny.
There it is. I mean, now, Marty, just go ahead and you break the connection with one person there. Then grab again. And clear the black.
Oh, I did it. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, you have black too.
I couldn't resist.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And then Pluto over here.
Where do you buy that?
Before we get to that, this is a great illustration that every single one of us matters. And sometimes we think, I'm not that important, I don't really matter, but you do matter. Because, you know, they say a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Without you, as part of the body of Christ, so power is lost in the overall effect. Just Google UFO ball, and you'll find they're like $3 or $4. They're really
Is that through you? Do you?
No, actually, if you go to KidmanScience.com, I think you can buy them from Josh Denhart. That's where I got mine.
And it's called UFO ball.
But anyway, they're awesome. So have a seat. But it's a group. But little experiences like that, people will remember for a long time. All right, I got a rocket here. I'm going to shoot my rocket. I wonder who I'm going to hit. Here we go. Oh! You weren't expecting it to go that close. No. I was trying not to shoot it hard. Usually I have a big room and you're going way to the back, you know.
Number 10.
Number 10. We're going to go all the way to the end. What do we got there? Hey, that's the whistle. All right. And that's probably an easy one. Who knows what the whistle is? What? Good guess. What are whistles symbolic of?
Get ready.
Sound? You're thinking too hard. You do this one probably every week in church. Games. Good job. Games. All right. So I've got a fun game here. This is actually the fastest growing kids sport in America. Who has heard of speed stacks? All right. Sport stacking is a really fun game, and I'll give you a quick demonstration. You don't have to. Well, it's elected. You don't have to learn this whole thing, but it's basically 12 cups. And they have a cycle where you stack 3, whoops, where you stack 3, then you stack 6, another 3, you down stack 3, 6, 3, then you do 2 stacks of 6, down stack those, then you get rid of 2, then you do what's called a 10 stack, and then you down stack a 10 stack, and you're back to 3, 6, 3, all right? But that is, that's after you've been doing it for a little while. But what I need is 2 volunteers who have never done the sport stacking before. All right, because I'm going to teach you a simple version. All right, so we got one volunteer, another volunteer. So come up here, and all I'm going to do is give you 2 sets of 3. Okay, and it's very simple, right? Score setting always goes from left to right. Okay, and so what you're going to do, and you always pick up, you only touch 1 cup at a time. So your first thing you're going to grab 1. On this start, you're going to both hands over here. You're going to pick up 1, put it down next to it, pick up the next one and put it up. Then you can move to the next pile and do the same thing. Pick one up. Then you go back to the first pile, right down stack, and then you can't do it at the same time. So it's always up, up, down, down. All right. So then you go down. No, can't do it at the same time. So. It's like a typewriter, if you know what that is.
Yes.
Left to right.
You can use both hands, but you can't do both stacks.
Yeah, so what you do is you put this stack up, then you put this stack up, then you go back, put this one down, and put this one down.
There you
So start on your left. Very good. You go up,
You got it.
up, then you go back, down, down. Now to make it more interesting, I'll give you each 3. Alright? And so it's up, 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 down, down, down. The winner, when I say go in a minute, gets to keep their stacks. Gets to keep their stacks. Alright? So it's 3 in a row. So it's up, up, up. You want to spread them out as much as you can. And then go back down, down, down. Alright? Who thinks the girls are going to win? Who thinks the boys are going to win? Okay, so you start hands on the table. So I say go, and when you're done, you slap your hands down, and the cups need to look like they do right now.
No pressure.
When you're done, because you're going to go up, 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 down, 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 like that. On your mark. Get set. And they got the first one up. All right, and they move to the center one. And the center one's up. All right, and go. And go. Never quit. Never surrender. Stack those 3 down. Go to the center, down. He's down, and slam table, and and I wasn't entirely honest with you because you both get to keep your stacks. So there you go. There's your bag that they go in. And Speed Stacks was very nice to give these to me, so you can get a propaganda bag to go along with it. There you go. It's got a DVD that fully explains how to do it. So have a lot of fun. Give them a big round of applause. This cup does. Make sure you have 12, just in case I goofed up in how I gave those to you. But so there's your bag. I'm just going to pull this over. All right. So who's got? Do we have a monkey out there? Or we got a chicken out there? All right. So throw the chicken. We got a rocket out there. Oh, Michelle just got nailed in the back. All right. So give us a number from 1 to 10.
6.
6. All right. Before we turn it over, let's just wrap up games. Games are fun, but always do games with a purpose. Never do games for the sake of games. All right? Games should always illustrate something. If you go to Kidology and you go to the game zone, you're always going to find an illustration that goes with the game. All right? And it's so important. Like when I did Speed Stack, I've got a bunch of object lessons to go with them. My favorite is I build a huge tower with a ton of games. And then I say, you know, what will happen if I pull out this bottom cup right in the middle? Of course, the kids want me to do it because the whole thing will implode. And I talk about, you know, what's the secret to how tall this is? And they say the number of cups, and it's like, no, it's the width of the foundation. And how high and how successful we are in our Christian life is determined by the width and the strength of our foundation. And sometimes we think, oh, I don't need to learn that Bible verse, or I don't need to obey that law of God. But sometimes if we neglect just one important thing, it can implode our whole life. And so then I'll do it. I'll pull it out and get to see the consequence of sin. One time I was in front of a camp. We did speed stacking all week. So the Saturday morning when all the parents came, that was the favorite object lesson. I had one for every chapter, 10 object lessons. But that was the big one. So I thought I'm going to go ahead and I'll do that one for the parents. Well, I built it up and I built it up, and when I pulled the cup out, there was a and then nothing happened. And so everyone, it looked like, oh, my object lesson bombed. But you know how you on the fly, you keep going. And so I said, sometimes your parents will tell you that if you do this wrong, bad things will happen, and you do it, and you think, they were wrong. Nothing happened. just like this. So you think, I'll just do it again. And the next time, and they're like, good save, good save. Right. So our next one is the hand. And this is touch, the power of touch. And just like Steve Alley joked, we tend to freak about touch because we're hypersensitive to appropriate touch, and rightfully so. But I'm talking about the power of kids touching stuff. You know, everywhere kids go, what does it say? It says, do not touch, right? That's the world that the kids live in. And we're always telling kids to put things away, put their toys away, put their hands down. And I'm always trying to figure out what can I let kids touch? What can I hand out? All right? If you got a story about Jesus out on a boat, give the kids all a blue piece of paper and let them be the waves. If there's a storm, give some of them lightning bolts and let them wave the lightning bolts. If you're going to talk about the parting of the Red Sea, all right, then have the kids in the middle pick up their chairs and move and part the chairs and then walk down the chairs as you continue teaching. Just constantly thinking, what can I do to get the kids involved so that they're hands-on touching stuff? Kids love that. In fact, I need a volunteer. Whoever catches my brain gets a volunteer. Oh! Good job, Ryan. All right, come up here, Ryan.
He's like,
You know, I solved one of the greatest mysteries of children's ministry a couple of years ago, and that was the blindfold. Blindfolds are really hard to make, right? Because kids are always peeking.
yeah.
And I finally invented the perfect blindfold, all right? What you do, you go to the store, and you just buy those drama masks, and then you just put paper behind them. But then they're still, though, where they can see down the nose. So then you just cut some paper, and I have like 8 different funny mouths. And the beauty of these is when you put these on, you won't need those. There we go. When you put this on a kid, all right, they cannot see. Plus, they look really funny. But touch is a powerful thing, you know. And you might be teaching on a subject, and you decide, you know, I'm going to have a kid come up blindfolded and reach inside of an envelope and try to guess what is in here. Let's see how Ryan does.
I have to guess what it is?
Yeah, can you guess?
Grapes.
You did good. You did good. All right. You know, if I'd had more time, you know what I would have done? I would have peeled the grapes, because then they feel like eyeballs. You're telling the guy, I have some eyeballs. Good job. You did good. You did good. You know, when you're traveling, you're kind of limited on what gross things you can find. But letting kids reach in a box, and even if you make a box with a hole, and they all have to walk up and feel what's inside there, touch is a powerful thing. All right, what numbers do we have left? We're running out here. Oh, good. We got 2 left. We're right on time. So we have 3 left. Oh, we do. All right. So throw your chicken or shoot the chicken. There we go. Oh. All right. We'll pretend it's you. So,
Okay, 2.
Number 2. Number 2 is questions. The power of questions. All right. And I probably should have saved my guest story for here. And so you've already heard that. But questions are powerful because questions get kids thinking. But there's a couple of keys to questions. Number 1 is do not ask questions that can be answered with a yes or a no. Well, why is that?
They're a pretty good chance that they're going to be wrong.
They're going to be wrong, and also they kill conversation. All right? And because if a kid can go uh-huh or you're not really engaging them. And we tend to overuse informational questions in children's ministry. You know, how many brothers did Joseph have? What's better are personal questions and analytical questions. All right? A personal question puts the child into the Bible story. So a personal question would be, how well do you get along with your brothers and sisters? Or how would you feel if your brothers sold you? All right? Because now they're thinking about Joseph, but they're personalizing it, which is what we want, right? For biblical application, you've got to personalize it. So, and you should always plan your questions. On your lessons plan, you need to have the questions you're going to ask. Never shoot from the hip, or you'll ask poor questions, or you'll ask informational questions, or you'll get yourself in trouble with a really dumb question that you probably shouldn't have asked, right? I could tell you many stories, which I won't because of time. And then analytical questions is, why do you think that God would allow Joseph to be accused of something he didn't do when he was trying to trust God and obey God. Why would God do that? You know, was God off busy doing something else? And then you get kids thinking about why God would let something bad happen to Joseph. And they start saying, well, because he had a plan. Because he was actually promoting him from Potiphar to Pharaoh. But in order for that to happen, he had to meet Pharaoh's baker and cupbearer. So then later in their life, when something bad happens, they've already thought about sometimes God lets a bad thing happen in order to enable a connection to be made for something else. So ask personal questions and analytical questions. Now my mom was a master teacher. And in the Kidology handbook, one of the resources that's on Kidology, I have a whole thing on 10 secrets for question asking. And one of hers that's profound, I call it the ask and shut up rule. My mom would have never said it that way. But she says, ask a question and then be quiet. Because what we tend to do when we ask a question is there's this awkward silence, and we immediately fill it. Because we think, well, they don't know, or we asked a poor question, or we rephrase it. But the reality is that silence is as awkward to the kids as it is to you. So if you outlast them by being silent, they will answer the question, especially if you're asking for guesses and you've created a safe environment. And the caveat to that is it works in recruiting. I used to watch my mom do this at a VBS meeting. She'd say, I need someone who will coordinate the crafts for VBS.
I'll volunteer.
I always get volunteers from across the country, and I'm running a VBS. But people can't, so what would happen is they'd go, well, I don't want to head it up, but I'm willing to help. And so, oh, well, if she's willing to help, I'm willing to help too. And, well, yeah, I'll join them and help, and pretty soon we'd have 5 people want to do with crafts. Whereas if she just say, anyone will help with crafts? All right, well, next is, she going with nothing. Silence is powerful, all right? And so learn to ask questions and then just be quiet and let the kids, because the kids don't like it too, so they'll venture something, even if it's Moses? All right, so we have 2 left, all right. And, on my visual, I had a couple other visuals. It's my things. I had to pack really light. I have a turkey for after he's been cooked. So I usually wear this during the whole Thanksgiving lesson, and during the closing prayer, I do a switch, and I have the cooked turkey that I wear after. All right, so which one we'll do next? We're running out of time, so we'll just go quick here. And what is this one?
Make them laugh.
Laughter. I would say if there's not laughter in your classroom, there's not learning in your classroom. Kids need to be laughing. They learn through laughter. It means their guard's down. When we're laughing, we're learning. When we're not laughing, we're critical. So, that's why pastors have to tell jokes and illustrations. Because if they're serious, you're listening and you're like, I'm not sure I'm buying that. That was good. That was good, right? Right, we do it. But as soon as we're laughing, our guard goes down and we're receptive. And so we've got to keep kids laughing. Whether it's just coming out with a silly hat on. One of my friends named Frank Tan submitted on Kidology. Kidology's most user submitted ideas, and there's 25,000 of them. And one of them that he submitted was called Jelly on the Face. And the idea was just to come out with some jelly on your face, like you were eating a jelly donut, and you forgot to wipe your face. And you just come out and you start teaching, and the kids all start snickering and giggling because they all think they see it and you don't know it's there. But that kind of stuff is bonding with the kids. Years ago, I had to do a parent-teacher thing, and greet the pastor thing. And I thought, well, this is going to be boring. And so when I went up there to do my greet the pastors, I just wore my afro wig, and I did the whole thing very serious, and I just told about the children's ministry, And the next Sunday, a family came to our church, and they were going to go to Willow Creek that Sunday. And the mom said, our daughters said this morning, they said, we have to go to the church with the guy with the poofy hair. And there's more to that story that I don't have time to share. And that made it even more significant that they came. And so it's just so important, all right, to have kids laughing. And since we're out of time, you guys looked out because we're going to have a bunch of you come up and put on all my silly hats. So aren't you glad that we're running out of time? And the last one is a wheel, which represents keep it moving, all right? Good communicators keep it moving, all right? My dad was a senior pastor, and as a kid, believe it or not, he used to take me to board meetings. He used to take me to deacon meetings. Took me to all his grown-up church meetings. And I had to sit quiet and do homework in color. A few times I got sent out if it was, church discipline or something, but most of it I could sit in. And I couldn't say anything, but then we'd debrief on the way home. And I learned a lot about church leadership. But one meeting that stuck out in my head is they spent an hour talking about how could they shorten the services because they kept going over. And my dad let them talk and share all these ideas, what they could cut and everything. And he finally said, why don't we just stop saying what we're going to do and do it? Instead of saying, now Mrs. Johnson's going to come up and sing a solo. Now the ushers are going to come forward and do an offering. Now the pastor's going to come up and preach. He said, let's just do it. They're not dumb. They can see what we're doing. And by just stopping saying what they were going to do and doing it, it incredibly shortened the service. Amazing. Maybe I should have done that today. And but I don't tell kids we're going to start children's church. I just start. I don't tell them that worship's going to start. I just start worshiping. Don't tell them we're going to start a game. I just start the game. I never announce a skit. The characters just come out. And you just do it. You keep it moving. They're on the edge of their seat, always wondering what's next. All right? Until, wow, it's over. And they can't believe it's over. And so just keep it moving. Last secret is stop while they like it. All right? Because sometimes when you actually find something they like, you want to keep doing it, right? The problem is kids only remember their last associated emotion with an activity. So if you just hit it out of the park with a great activity, but the problem is that you did it too long, and they get bored with it, the next time you go to do it, no, I don't want to do that, that's boring. And you're like, what do you mean that's boring? You guys love that. They don't remember the 20 minutes of fun. They remember the 30 seconds of boredom. And so you've got to quit 10 minutes into it. So they're like, no, don't stop. So the next time you bring it back, they're like, yay, we get to do it again. So you got to quit while they like it. As painful as that is for you, because you're actually hitting it out of the park, and you'll be able to use it again. All right? Be sure I got your email, and I'll make sure you get hooked up with Kidology. Lots of great ideas there for ways you can become a better communicator with kids. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Shoot my toys back up here. I need my favorite. Awesome. I think someone else is in here at 3:15, right?
Yes.
So I got to pack up quick. All right. Thanks again. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys tomorrow. I'm doing a bunch of workshops tomorrow.
Thank you.
Ta-da!